Welcome to Prison of Elders. Prepare for combat.
Okay, Tay, last week we talked about the Trials of Osiris, which is the PvP portion of House of Wolves. Let's talk PvE this week with the Prison of Elders. What is that all about?
Yeah, so excited to talk about the Prison of Elders. It's the new endgame activity. It's kind of replacing the raid in a way, which is weird to say, but it is the PvE aspect of it. And it's kind of like Horde mode with a twist. I don't really want to call it Horde mode, but it's like kind of the easiest analogy I can make. You drop into a ship that has basically some of the baddest wanted, enemies in the world that Varix is kind of like locked up. And he challenges you to beat them for, bounty and treasures and all that. There's 4 variations of the Prison of Elders. There's a 28 version, a 32 version, a 34 version, and a 35 version. Now the 28 version is the only one that's matchmakeable. So you can load up your strikes and whatnot and find 2 strangers and do the 28 version, and that consists of 4 rounds. However, the 32 and 34 and 35 version, you're gonna need a fire team. And the reason that you're gonna need a team is because it's kind of harder than your just 28 version. There's gonna be a lot of people that are higher level than the 28 version, so it won't be as hard. So unfortunately, there's a slight barrier, but it's not as bad as trying to find 5 people, right? So the cool thing about the Prison of Elders is there's modifiers for each of these 4 airlocked rooms that you're gonna have to go into. Some are good, some are bad. Some of the bad ones are kind of like the stuff you saw before, jugular, light switch. So you have to be careful depending on the round to make sure, hey, it's jugular, don't, make sure you're watching your ammunition. Or there's good ones like brawler. It's like, okay, my melee's super beefed up and I can one-shot a lot of stuff because it's 300% more damage or something like that. Or catapult, which recharges your grenades faster. So essentially you're going into these rooms. They're always race specific. So you're gonna have a hive kind of room, a fallen kind of room, a vex kind of room. And each of those rooms, you're gonna get 3 different waves of monsters that are gonna attack you, depending on, of course, the map that you have. And as you're doing that, you might run into something cool called a critical objective. Now, that comes in the form of, you have to not only kill the monsters on the map, but you also have to defuse mines in 3 different locations, or you might have to destroy some mines that are in 3 different locations. So you're gonna go from room to room to room until you get to, I think, the 4th room, which is a boss, and then you're ultimately gonna have to kill the boss. That's in the 28 version. But in the 32 and the 34 version, there's actually a 5th room, or well, there's not actually a 5th room, but you're gonna go into a 5th room and fight another boss. And the cool thing for me, I did the 32 version, and the boss actually had a modifier that hasn't been in Destiny before, and it's, I guess the easiest way to explain it is like a rainbow shield, because he recalibrates his armor depending, it's either going to go void or arc or solar. So that kind of forces you and your teammates to kind of coordinate, okay, who's got a solar weapon, who's got a void weapon, who's got an arc weapon. And after you kill him, luckily enough, at least in the 32 and the 34 version, you're going to be able to go into this really sweet treasure room. What happens is the dock in the middle opens up more or less, and you get to drop down kind of like you would in Vault of Glass, through the caves, and inevitably you're going to land into a kind of cylindrical room that has a bunch of treasure. Unfortunately, I can't show it to everyone, but it's like Scrooge McDuck's treasure room. You can kind of see all the gold and everything, but there's a large chest and 2 small chests, at least in the 32 version. And the large chest has, an exotic new legendary weapon, which was a Queen's Wrath one, interestingly enough, a new class legendary armor, and then some motes and coins.
So the treasure room sounds a little unusual for Destiny. It's a game that usually doesn't give you a lot of rewards for completing the weekly strike or whatnot. It's always very random, and it sounds like from what you've described, there was a lot of treasure. Is that there to get people to max light level faster? What's going on there?
I think it's just trying to reward the player for the time that they spent, right? And taking away some of the randomness is a really good thing, right? It's something that even Diablo did, which is why it kind of had this resurgence. It's just that reward the players for the time that they invest, right? No longer are you going into the Nightfall thinking please, 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 exotic, exotic. Now it's probably please, 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 etheric light. But with the treasure chest, that, at least from what I could tell, me and my 2 teammates, when we opened it, exotic item, I think I got a weapon. There was a Queen's Wrath legendary new weapon, and then there was a legendary class armor. So, and then also strange coins and motes. But it seems like at least you are guaranteed an exotic and guaranteed a new legendary of some sort. And that's very satisfying, right? As a player, knowing when you open this chest, it's not like a, cross your fingers, hope that I get an exotic. It's, oh, I'm actually gonna get an exotic. Now it's more like, oh, that wasn't the exotic I wanted, but at least you know that you got it, right? And that makes you feel good, right? And I think that's kind of what they're going for with the treasure room.
All right, so now the important thing that we should talk about is you've seen pretty much all of House of Wolves' weekly content. How do you feel in terms of, is this enough? Is there enough stuff there to keep people in until, Comet happens?
I think just having something new and different and is enough, is refreshing enough that we want to play it, right? Like everyone in the office is very interested, right? The first time through my Prison of Elders, it was just like, oh my God, like crap, like we got to go over here, we got to go over there, and it was just a lot of scrambling. And the tense part of that is like where some of the fun is, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen, right? And that's kind of what the raid gave you. It's like I remember doing the Crota Bridge part. It was like how are we supposed to get over there? Like let's go to the back room, and it's not necessarily to the depth of that in terms of puzzle solving, but there are like smaller things like the critical objectives and things that you have to fulfill. And I think this is good for like the wider audience, right? Like I think it's actually a pretty good time to come back because it's easier to get to a higher light level. There's more things for you to do that you couldn't do before because in the past it was like you need 5 people or you're kind of screwed out of that last light level. Those restrictions are kind of gone now, right? The accessibility is the big thing, and the new activities is what's going to make this kind of fun. Like hopefully fun enough to last until Comet, but definitely fun enough for like the first month. Easy, no problem.
Victory well